Hi, today I have a more informative video for you. Recently I set up my new and current watercolor mixing palette where I've added two new green shades to. Daniel Smith's Green Gold and also from Daniel Smith's Primatech line the beautiful and granulating Green Apatite Genuine. And while trying out these new shades I realized I own quite a lot of green watercolor paints, but how many shades of green do I actually have? So I looked into this handy dandy watercolor book where I keep every watercolor paint I own to see which greens I actually own. And I own quite a lot of paints and palettes and watercolor sets, so I decided to exclude special colors like Schminke's super granulating watercolor paint series. Because these are special greens and not so much commercial colors that you would find among other brands. So a few years back, when I started getting more into watercolor mixing, I already practiced how to mix a few green shades. So to catalog all my green watercolor paints, I prepared these little color charts for all the tubes or half pan watercolors that I own. Afterwards, we will see how many shades of green I can actually mix using color theory. The first green color is May Green, a very bright and vibrant green that is made of a yellow pigment PY151 and a green pigment PG7, which I have as a single pigment color named phthalo green as well. Next is Sap Green, made from the yellow pigment PY153 and also phthalo green PG7. It's similar to May Green, but a bit darker through the different yellow pigment. Next is Olive Green, made from pigment blue PB15 and pigment green PG8, which is one of the first half pans that I ever bought, but actually rarely used. Next up we have Permanent Olive Green, which I got recently for Christmas but never used yet. Next is one of my favorite green pigments, although it does appear blue, the granulating green pigment PG50 named Cobalt Turquoise in Schminke's watercolor line. The half pan that I own is almost empty, so I definitely gotta buy a refill. Next we have an essential green pigment PG7, phthalo green, which you already seen included in other green color tubes, because it is very intense and mixed with yellows and blues yields a beautiful variety of green shades. Next I have Cerulean Green from Daniel Smith, which is made from the black pigment PBK31, so it is a black shade with a greenish hue. I like Cerulean colors for the muted, darker vibe, but I honestly haven't used them in a while. Next we have Phthalo Turquoise, made from PB15 and PG36, a very nice and bright turquoise shade. Then we have Green Gold, made from the three different pigments PY150, PY3 and PG36. Finally I have the Primatech Green Jadeite Genuine, which I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce correctly, made from the real jadeite pigment, and Green Apatite Genuine, also made from genuine apatite pigments. Both of them are very nice granulating greens with different undertones. On the back of each green color, I mix them with a cool and warm yellow, as well as a cool blue and a warm blue. Because green sits right between yellow and blue in the color wheel, so you can mix yellow and blue to get green. It also means you can shift already existing green more towards yellow and blue in their respective temperatures to get even more green shades. For example, with phthalo green you can see how well it mixes into cool and warm greens and also to quite nice bright turquoise shades. So to see which shades of green I can mix with the color paints I own, I pre-selected yellow and blue shades as well as an orange and an earthy tone and organized them in this chart. Well, and then it was time to mix all the colors. I started with PB36 cerulean blue chromium, a granulating light blue shade, and mix it with the selected cool, neutral and warm yellows, as well as the orange shade PO71 and the earthy tone PY42 yellow ochre. I did that with every selected color. I decided to go from cool yellows to neutrals to warm yellows to orange. For the blues I selected a few warm and cool tones as well as 2 green pigments PG50 because it yields very interesting and granulating green mixes, and PG7 phthalo green as it is an essential color to mix greens. I also included 2 darker blue shades, PB60 Delft Blue and Soladite Genuine from Daniel Smith's Primatech line, to see what kind of greens I can get with the darker blue. And then I was finally done. I was pleasantly surprised about the huge variety of green shades I got. Mixing cerulean blue chromium, which is granulating with slightly opaque color like PY35 cadmium yellow light, yielded a very interesting mix. Generally, mixing warmer blues with cool and neutral yellows was okay, but with warmer tones they turned into muddy mixes. PG50 cobalt turquoise, which is also granulating, yielded very interesting granulating mixes as well. Taking a cool blue like PB50 and phthalo blue and mixing it with cool and neutral yellows resulted in very vibrant greens. The darker shades yielded more muted greens, but there are very nice different olive tones I got. For example, PG7 phthalo green and PO71 pyrrol orange ended up being one of my favorite mixes with a rich deep green tone. And of course, I also wanted to use the green colors I got in a painting. So I made a little sketch where I could use a few different green tones and transferred it onto watercolor paper to start painting. Generally, I don't use greens very often in portrait paintings and more in landscape paintings, but through this little experiment, I really started to enjoy using greens more. I really enjoyed how this little portrait painting turned out. I'm glad that I cataloged all my green watercolor tubes and pans that I own and made an updated mixing chart. I often use these charts for reference or when I'm looking for a specific color. I hope I could explain my process somewhat logically. I am no expert on watercolors or pigments. Everything I know I have learned through the years of painting with watercolors. If you have any more questions or suggestions, please feel free to contact me. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye!